Hi, everybody. How are you doing? In case this is your first time seeing me, my name is Stacy-Ann Louie. I'm a lactation consultant, certified doula, and one of my passions is maternal mental health. And because of that, it led me to become a mental health facilitator and have the pleasure of meeting great people in the field that are working directly with women, and in particular also Black, specialists and mental health specialists that are working with women in general, but of course working with Black women. I want to take the time to talk today with Deshelle Burrowes, and she is a trained sex therapist at LAPC, specializing in new moms and dads during postpartum. And she's the owner of Pathway to Wellness, located in Stockbridge. If I'm missing anything, please let me know and fill in here.
No, no, you are doing great. You're fantastic right now. Yes.
Okay. So explain, why did you become an LAPC or sex therapist? And you wear a few hats. So explain how you got there and all that stuff.
Okay. So I have always wanted to be a therapist. Well, not always, but for the latter half of my life, I wanted to be a therapist. Initially, I was a flight attendant for 16 years. And
Wow.
once I was being a flight attendant, I know, right? That's aging myself. I kind of started talking about my journey. I am a child sexual abuse survivor. And so once I started coming to my revelations about the things that had happened with me, I started talking to people, my coworkers on the jump seat, and I would openly share my issues and things that happened with me. And it literally became a Me Too movement before there was a Me Too movement. And so literally I would have people all the time on my jump seat saying, yep, that's what happened to me. Yep, that happened to me too. Men, women, it was just cross the genders. And I was like, this is something that definitely needs to be kind of looked into. After I had the birth of my second son, I decided to go back to school for my master's. I also started working at the Grady Rape Crisis Center as a patient advocate. And so with that, I saw a lot of trauma. I saw a lot of people that were exposed to so much trauma, even their situations with the sexual assault that happened with them then, but they also were bringing along more bags of trauma. And it was just so heavy for them. And that became something I really became interested in. So as I started my journey into my master's program, my focus immediately went to women that had been sexually assaulted, struggling with sexual issues coming from their sexual assaults, as well as just dealing with trauma and just kind of supporting women. And I've always been an advocate for women. And so I think this was just a great connect for me. And so because of that, then I ended up delving into postpartum support. I actually sent the information about the program to a friend of mine. She had just had her first baby. We graduated together. And I was like, oh my God, this would be so amazing for you. And she was like, yeah, okay, and kind of, went by the wayside, but I kept looking at it. And it was something that I wanted to know more about. And I realized that. And so then I pursued it. I joined the PSI Warm Line and volunteered for them for about almost a year, I think. And I did the Warm Line. I really enjoyed it, where we would connect moms to other resources and such. And from there, I became the South Atlanta coordinator for Postpartum Support International, which is one of the hats I still wear now. So yeah, it's been a journey, needless to say.
Yes. Yes. I'm familiar with that. I'm also, affiliated in some way with PSI, disclaimer.
Yes.
So that's a great organization to be a part of if you are an advocate or anyone interested in working in maternal mental health in Georgia.
Absolutely.
So that's definitely good. Yeah. So what are your specialties? I mean, you delve a little bit on it, but are there any other specialties that you have? As a therapist?
Sure. I like to say that I focus with new and expecting moms, and I do lifestyle transitions. So if you are that woman that you are looking for a new career, maybe you worked on your job for 10, 15 years and like, this isn't all to life. What else is there? I'm that girl. You can call me and let's figure that out. What's next for you? I'm also the person, if you're coming in and out of a marriage, you're starting your marriage and you don't know what that wife role looks like. For some of us, we struggle, especially if you were like me. I got married later on. And so by the time I got married, I was already grown, real grown. I was well into my 30s. So it was an adjustment becoming that wife, and kind of letting someone else kind of lead, and be a partner, because I hadn't been a partner really, with someone else. I'd never stayed with anyone, lived with anyone. So just stepping into that wife role, that was a transition for me. And also, if you're an empty nester, I may be that girl for you. If your kids are grown and gone and you have no idea what to do with the rest of your life, let's work that out. Let's figure out what that looks like for you. And so
that is such an amazing thing.
Yes, because it's so needed.
Yeah.
And I love to talk about coping skills and the importance of how we're coping. And especially for Black women, the one thing we struggle with is that superwoman syndrome. We wear that cape and we wear it well, to our detriment though. We're doing everything for everybody else, but we don't ever take the time for ourselves. And so that's, no matter what track you're on with me, we're going to always talk about you taking that cape off and how to let your hair down and take care of yourself. I am a firm believer in you can't pour from an empty cup. And so because of that, I always talk about the importance of self-care and taking care of yourself so that you can take care of others.
That's so important. Gosh, we could talk about that for a while. So as we start, let's expand on the state of maternal mental health in the Black community. Yes. That was a great segue into that. You can expand on that for us.
Yes. In the Black community, maternal mental health is something that's a new topic. For me, I know my generation, I'm older probably than most. I'm almost 50. So I hate to say it, but I'm okay with
I wouldn't say than most. I mean,
well, than most of my clients. Yeah. And so because of that, I come from a generation whereas I had my kids later in life, but nobody really talked about all that went on when you were having a baby. For me, it was not even a thought of, I could pass from having my child, from birthing my children. For me, I wasn't big on doulas and because I didn't know about it. And so now with the immersion of Black maternal mental health, this has been so amazing. And I love to give resources out for moms saying this is doable. You can definitely have support while you're having your baby and definitely have support before and after. And so I love that the range that we have now as far as being visible, because it lets them know that there is another way. And maternal mental health is so important. I never realized in my own journey to motherhood that I had some postpartum anxiety and postpartum paranoia. I delve a lot into thinking about someone was gonna, I watched too many of those CBS Sunday movies, and so and literally people would, I was like, I'm big, because I was a big girl then, I'm a big girl now. Yeah. And I was like, somebody's looking at me saying, oh, she big and healthy, she's almost due, thinking that they would harm me to get to my baby. And so there were certain times, I had to stop blocking my time when I would be out and visible. And then I would kind of go into my little shell, because of the paranoia that I developed. I didn't realize this until after I started working with PSI, and I reflected back on my own second son and birthing him, delivering him, all those things that I didn't know. And also my parents weren't really vocal about what happens when you have a baby. how that affects you, how it affects you before, during, and after. So if I thought I had postpartum anxiety, I never would have been that person that said I need to reach out for help, because I didn't know it was a thing. That's the importance of maternal mental health now, is that we are here to say we are here to say it happens. It is a common thing, and you don't have to suffer alone. You know, as some of us did.
That is so important.
Yes.
Yeah, that is so important. And harking back to the cultural and generational things that we face within the Black community. And I'm sure other groups definitely suffer with it, because mental health, it's something that we don't talk about. If you have like a cut on your hand, something visible that we can see, we're way more comfortable in talking about that.
Absolutely.
But when it comes on to matters of the mind and with different groups itself, and it's, you know, there are different levels. It's layered as to why it is, and we're going to delve more into that.
Absolutely, I agree completely.
Itself, but this being Black Breastfeeding Week itself, I want to touch on a few things, but also going back to say that, why is it that you think that Black women in particular shy away from seeking therapy?
Because they are terrified of what's going to happen when they say that they're struggling. You know, it's historically, it's been, you know, oh, something's wrong. She has a diagnosis. So let's categorize her in this category of she's crazy, something's wrong. And then when you bring a child into the equation, they're terrified that someone may take their children. If they say that they're flawed, or if they say that they have there's something going on. So they rather suffer in silence than to say, you know what, I have depression, and this depression is eating me up. And because of this depression, I can't get out the bed. I barely am feeding myself, and I haven't bathed in days. They'd rather do that than to say they have an issue, because our families have looked for years and said, there's nothing wrong with you. Girl, get on up and go get that baby something to eat, or go to work, or whatever. And we don't take time to really say, no, for real, something's wrong, because of the fear we have, or because we will be looked at or judged by our own people.
Yes, you're so right about that. I hear that all the time.
Right.
It is. And it's so funny, because I'm also, one of the things that I became a birth doula, and then of course, eventually, I did lactation, as in like helping with just lactation. And then of course, I became a lot more interested and followed that path, and postpartum in particular, because everybody's here for the party or this or that. And I realized that in taking care of my own doula clients, there are a lot of things that were missed, and a lot of things that were missed with me too. That I wish somebody had seen. I wish somebody had seen when I was on the floor crying, because I realized that I didn't have the support that I needed. I had my husband, and he was great support, but I had moved to a new city, and we were it. And I was just like, no, this can't be it.
I get it.
You know? So, and you know, I find that a lot of my postpartum clients, unfortunately, the majority of them are not Black families. And I really want to get more Black families into, you know, postpartum care. It's so important. It is. It definitely is. Yeah. Touch a little bit on Black breastfeeding itself. So I'm a numbers person, just so you know, I'm all about that type of stuff. So I'll touch on a little bit. So I'm excited. This is the thing is, Black women in particular have, you know, they're the lowest in terms of initiation and duration. Lower in terms of initiation and thing. When it comes on to white women, they're about 73% in initiation. We're about 63 or lower. And then by the time we get to about 6 months, we are definitely, you know, well below 50%. I think right about 23%.
I can believe it.
And lower by the time you get to like 1 year. It's so that's definitely, for me, I'm like, that's an alarming statistic for me. And I'm like, we need to get it definitely better. But focusing more on some of the reasons why are very layered. Let's just be honest. It's not just one thing.
Absolutely.
But one thing that I found also equally alarming is that although we represent about 13-14% of the population, correct me if I'm wrong, we are about 23% of increase in depression, anxiety, and other mood effect disorders. And it's rising.
Absolutely.
It's definitely rising. And I'm like,
absolutely.
It's definitely
Absolutely.
rising. So speak to like how you help women overcome, you know, issues of depression. And we also know that it affects breastfeeding. So how can we help women overcome issues of depression, anxiety, and mood effect disorders?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, everyone that comes in my office, mom or not, I always discuss the importance of sleeping. And for moms, I definitely make sure I delve into it. How is your sleep schedule? I know you got to get up at night with that baby. You may not have help. Your husband may have worked his shift. And so you're doing all those duties and you may already be back at work yourself. But how much rest are you getting? Because resting resets your brain, which also will help with milk production as well. And so a lot of women, they'll admit that they aren't sleeping. And so I always talk to them. I'll have a whole class about the importance of sleep and how to set up a sleep schedule to wind yourself down to get to sleep, you know, because that is important. If you're not resting, then your anxiety will go up, your depression will go up. Whatever symptoms that you have associated with postpartum, it could be paranoia, it could be intrusive thoughts. All of those things are compounded when you're not resting. So I always talk about the importance of getting rest because that's where it starts. If you're letting your brain reset itself, then that would help decrease all of those things I just mentioned. And so I always talk to them about the importance of sleep. For depression and anxiety, I always say, what are your triggers? Let's identify what those triggers are. And let's figure out how we're coping. Are you coping? You know, what does your coping look like? You know, can we find other ways of coping? Sometimes by the time you've come to me for therapy, you're coped out. Your coping skills are no longer working, right? No longer working. So at that point, I have to say, well, let's figure out some new ways of coping. Because when you use the same thing over and over again, it's no longer going to work for you effectively. But if we have for every emotion that we feel, I always tell people, let's have 3 to 5 ways of coping with those emotions. It could be the same 3 or 5 things, but we're kind of rotating them through. But you need at least 3 to 5 for anger, 3 to 5 for depression, 3 to 5 for anxiety, 3 to 5 for grief, guilt, whatever your emotions you're feeling, you need ways of coping. And so let's identify positive ways of helping you cope, because that will make it better for you. And so that's one of the main things that I go with is, how are we coping? If you're not coping, let's figure out how we can start figuring out how you can cope. And then I move on to support. Really, really good. And I'm like, do you have support? Because support is so important. But a lot of times the moms don't have support. Some that I see don't. And so they end up coming to me for that additional support because they may not have that mom nearby, or their husband is so tired. He thinks he's done with his part if he's paying bills, those things. Or you have that dad that he's up, he's feeding, he's breastfeeding, he's doing everything. I mean, I said breastfeeding, but feeding and doing everything that he needs to do, but it's still not enough for you. You still need more. And so that's when you may say, let me call on my support. I need a nap during the day, or we build that support team. Like for me, when I had my kids, when I had my second son, I joined a mom's group. And that's kind of what I visioned my support group around. I looked around for a support group, and all the support groups I went to, they weren't really receptive to me. And I was like, okay. And my son, because I was still, I think, pregnant with my second son at the time. And I ended up finding a support group that looked like me, that were amazing group of moms. Everyone had children, some had multiple children, and we really were support to each other. So when we had our kids, we not only were celebrating our children together, but when that mom was down, we made casseroles, or me, I'm not a cook, so I would call it, hey, what's your pizza order? Let me send you some pizza. So that way it lightens the load for that mom when she's by herself. She didn't have to figure out what's for dinner. So it's just those things, basic things for support that I think are important to that mom and her well-being.
That is so important that you hit on a lot of things that, you know, definitely you need to actually speak with someone sometimes to really figure out those things. Yes. And it does take time. And one thing I want to say with that too is that it's not a quick fix. No. You're actually coming to a therapist to really help you really work towards the rest of your life. Absolutely. So don't feel in a way like I'm going to come and this is going to be fixed in like 4 to 6 weeks. It really isn't. We took a long time to get here. Absolutely. So we're going to take a long time, you know, a time to get out of it, but it's planned.
And we have to be patient with ourselves. You know, be patient with ourselves and the progress. A lot of times when clients come to me for their first session, I allow an hour and a half to 2 hours because they have so much that they want to literally bring up to me, you know, and everything comes out in that first session, and they're like, oh, and I forgot to tell you about this. And then they're like, and then when they leave, they still text me. I was like, oh, I forgot to tell you about all this other stuff. I'll tell you the next meeting, because they have had so much on their shoulders that they've been dealing with for so long. And so because you have so much, and then now you have this beautiful new baby that you're trying to care for while caring for yourself, while you're healing, you know, that so it's so much that comes with the category of coming into therapy. And so I always tell them, be patient with yourself. Not only be patient with me, but be patient with yourself in the process.
That's good itself. You know, again, with that, I'd like to bring up, as you said, you know, research does show that breastfeeding does lower the risk of depression, and it helps mom. And of course, one thing that it does is that if you're using it effectively in some way, let's not say effectively, if you're using it in a way, it can help you to get more sleep and overcome like past adversities. Because I always talk to mom as a lactation specialist, and I was like, you know, side lane with your baby is so important itself, because you're there and you're breastfeeding and all the hormones and all the stuff, and all of a sudden you find your way like, oh, I'm getting a little bit sleepy. If somebody can take the baby away from your, whatever your sleeping plan is, co-sleeping, bed sharing, whatever, sleeping aside, but that actually helps to get you more sleep itself. Absolutely. So there's some advantage to this whole thing itself. Use what, I guess, it was naturally given to you to get some sleep. Leave the laundry alone.
Please leave the laundry alone. Leave it for one of the, because the baby, when the baby's new, the baby will sleep multiple times. At least 1 or 2 times. Take time for yourself to get that nap in with that baby. And maybe on that third nap that baby gets, you do laundry. You clean those bottles if you're like I breastfed both my kids. Yeah. And the first one, I could not produce enough milk for him. He's still a big boy now. And so I could not produce at all. So I had to Similac it sometimes, and sometimes I was breast milk. So I still had to bottle you know? Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so, because luckily he would take the bottle, even with what, he didn't care how he got it. You had a unicorn. Right. Yes, he was. He really was. He tricked me. That's how I ended up with the second one. Because the second one didn't want anything to do with the bottle. That's most babies. Yes, at all. And he refused. So literally, I felt like I was strapped to him for his first year of life because he only breastfed. Yeah. You know? And so with that, it was hard. I'm like, wait a minute, but your brother, we were buying bottles at the yin yang, trying to figure out something that he would like that resembled my nipple. Nothing did. Nothing felt the same. No, once they get a liking to that, because I mean, when you think about it, it's like there's nothing that compares to being to mom, that breast, that feeling. He can pull it all the way back to his soft palate. Come on now, and he can fall asleep right away. Baby, he was living the life. Let me tell you. Living the life, and he living the life. Leave me alone. I'm with my mommy. I'm with my mommy. And still to this day, he's like that. He said,
I was going to say, I bet you he's still to this day
yes,
like that.
Lord. Yeah, honey, he will snuggle up next to me, and I'm like, Lord, I'm sweating like a slave.
That's
because I'm hot, because he's warm and next to me, because he won't move if he gets in our bed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I enjoyed breastfeeding my kids. I was fortunate enough to be able to be off work.
Yeah.
For the birth of both my kids.
Yeah.
I think I was off for a year with my first, and my second, I wasn't working any longer. I was on that break. Yeah. So I just enjoyed my pregnancies. Well, the delivery and on. And for both, and I was able, but not all moms, I understand, can do that. Some of them have to return to work, and that's the thing. And that's the thing, and that's when it gets hard to kind of maintain that breastfeeding regimen that they've started maybe from out the hospital, because when they go back to work, it's not always feasible for you to go breastfeed. You can't breastfeed at your desk for most jobs, and how are you going to keep the milk cold? And it's a journey to go through.
It's a journey. And that's something that I definitely deal with lactation and how to work around. We get pretty creative. We really do. Yeah. And the best thing to do is to start prepping before you have the baby. I find a lot of moms come after you have it. If you do, I mean, I do emergency surgery with lactation, but
right.
It's just, it's good to come before. So I want to talk about also representation. You are obviously a Black woman doing this work. And for me, I'm just like, yes.
Yes, okay.
So speak about your experience as a Black therapist.
So I love being a Black therapist. I love representing who I am, what I am. My website, it shows only us, only beautiful Black women of color. Yeah. Now, everyone's welcome to come to me. However, I feel like it's important for us to see images of ourselves out there and to be visible. I had a whole post on Instagram back in June, because I was working at a hospital and I was asked to leave because I had on my Black therapist rock. They sent me home from the day because they asked me, do you have something else to wear? Yes. And so I was like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not a toddler. I don't keep clothes in the car anymore. And so they were like, well, we're going to have to ask you to leave. And mind you, I had worn that shirt there, I know 40 times easily. But this one person who had gotten into a high position was uncomfortable with that. And so I went out and was like, you know what? I think I wore that shirt for 3 days. That was on a Friday. I think I wore it all weekend. Because I was like, you know what? It was right after George Floyd. We were all still reeling from that and in our, in our spaces about that. And I was like, people need to know that there are therapists out here that look like them. If you want, you choose whoever you want. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Stacy-Ann.
Oh, I said, and rightly so, because let me just say, like, we need therapists, but during this time, so many women have been flocking and therapists have seen an increase in how many women are coming to them and just people in general. My support group has been growing. Every week I get at least 2 people that are growing in my support group. So I know the need. I love that we have visibility, but that shows that this is something that could have helped someone, but it made that person uncomfortable to see you support. We're not saying that any other therapist doesn't matter. We're saying that, hey, look at me, I can help you because you historically don't necessarily want to go to a therapist, but I can help you. Don't be in your feelings. We're trying to help save lives here.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. And what better way than someone that looks like you? You'll be probably more comfortable if you're with someone that looks like you. And because we know Black Lives Matter, and we should support Black businesses. So, and if it's not me, there's still another Black therapist out there. I'm not the only one. And so the great thing about that is that you see me, but guess what? There's somebody else. So even if you come to me and say you want to start therapy and we maybe have a consultation or what have you, and we figure out that, maybe we're not the best fit, I can refer you to somebody else who may be a better fit for you. That looks like you.
I love to hear that too.
You know,
Exactly. That's
that's
so
what
good to know.
amazing about this network is that I know other people that look like us that I can say I can refer you to. And
Yeah,
that's the
that's
amazing
so,
thing,
yeah.
because it is so important that we stand out and I'm literally looking for I need a whole t-shirt line myself, but I'm looking for, I want everything black this, black that, black business owner, because I want people to know we are out here. We are not unicorns,
Yeah,
you know,
you are
and
right.
there are more of us. And especially now with telemental health, we have such a larger reach now, just within our own states. And sometimes if you're coaching outside of state lines as well. And so, but
No,
you want to find someone that most people that look like them. And
exactly.
that's
You are
important,
so very right. That's so,
you
so
know.
very right itself. So we're gonna go to, what is your ideal patient? So that's just throwing it out there.
Ooh, what is my ideal patient? My ideal patient comes to me with, she is probably a millennial.
Mm-hmm,
She is African American.
mm-hmm.
She is probably about mid 30s, maybe
Yeah,
has had her first child.
yeah,
She is struggling, trying to figure out how to make all this work. How do I make motherhood work? How do I make, you know, being a wife work? And I
yeah.
still want to be a boss too. I still want to run my business and do what I need to do. But I'm struggling because I can't get my baby to sleep, you know, or I'm struggling because there's no time for me anymore. I can't find time for myself. And so now, and it's COVID, and my coping skills no longer work because I can no longer get my nails done, my feet done because of, you know, mask wearing or what have you.
Yeah,
That would be my ideal client.
that's awesome. And so before we go, is there anything else you want to say or fill us in on before we wrap up here today?
I appreciate you having me on for sure. I definitely want to talk about the importance of representation. You know, as
Yeah.
we just talked about, it is so imperative and so important for us to be out there. And so I want to say to whoever you are that you have something that maybe that unicorn person, you may be that Black therapist, you may be that doula. Make sure that people know that you're here and that your services are available. I want to also talk to that mom who needs help, but maybe she can't afford therapy. Know that there is a support group for you. Stacy-Ann runs groups. I run support groups. And mine are free of charge. Yours, I don't know if yours are free too, right, Stacy? Yeah, and
Yeah,
they're
mine's are
more,
free of charge too. Yeah.
yeah, and they're more like that out there. So, you know, that's the thing, is
Yes, they
get
are.
connected to resources. I have a mom, literally, I've connected her to Stacy-Ann's group. I think we have to do this together. I don't think that any mom
Yeah.
should be suffering that's out here. If we can find other resources, like we have a whole list of therapists, doulas. I'm getting more connected with doulas. Stacy-Ann is probably my first and gonna be my favorite, because we need the network. We need to know that we are out here, and that, hey, if she has a client with a problem that may be beyond her scope of practice, let me call Deshelle. She can help my client with depression or what have you.
Excellent.
And we can all bounce back and forward. It's not about crabs in the barrel. It's about, we all are here
No,
to
it's
support each other.
not.
We are all here to
Yep.
support each other. And if we do that,
That is
imagine
so.
what difference we can make in our community. And that's what's important to me.
That's the big point here. I mean, really and truly, that word, imagine the difference we can make in our
Mm-hmm.
community. And I
Mm-hmm.
want everyone to stop and just take a think about that. It's not about everyone fighting for a piece of it. It's really about
Right.
us collaborating and working together to really
Yes.
help moms. That's what we're here for, to help other
That's
women,
it.
to help us
Mm-hmm.
thrive and be our best. That's
Yes.
it. So again, this is Deshelle Burrowes. She's from Pathway to Wellness.
Mm-hmm.
And check her out on her own webpage. She's also on Instagram. She is on Facebook. Go ahead and put your
Uh-oh.
tag in there for me for Facebook
Okay.
and IG.
Sure. On the chat
Yeah.
box.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, go ahead and put it in the chat box for
Sure.
me so I can read it for everyone here. But
Okay.
I want to make sure you guys get in and you're connected with her. itself. So it's Pathway to Wellness itself. She
It's
definitely does
the
a
Pathway
virtual.
to Wellness. Thepathwaytowellness.net
Okay, the
is my web.
Pathway.
That's my website.
Okay, so yeah,
My
go ahead.
IG is Sex
Mm-hmm.
Mommy Wellness is my IG. And my Facebook
Mm-hmm.
is, I'm still typing, I'm slow typer, it looks like.
Yeah.
Hold on.
It's okay. It's
And
fine.
my Facebook page is my name, Deshelle Burrowes,
Yeah.
APC NCC. So,
Okay. No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, grab that. I'll definitely post it under this link itself, but I want to make sure that it's out there that you can connect with her. Our hope is that you'll definitely know that you're definitely not alone. You can get
No,
help, and we're here to help you to
You're
thrive.
never alone.
Yeah, here to thrive. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate this.
Thank you so much for having me, Stacy-Ann. And let's connect soon.
Okay.
Sounds
Yes.
good.